the director of many film festivals. If you know who I am, if you've been to my channel, you know that we have 11 different film festivals that we operate at filmfestivalcircuit.com. And we usually talk to filmmakers. I wanted to break into something a little bit different today. I had an opportunity to meet with Caroline Stussi, who is an entertainment attorney based out of LA. And I wanted to pick her brain about a couple of questions. Thank you, Caroline, for joining me. How are you?
I'm good today. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for coming down. Could you give us just a little bit of your background?
Yeah, so I have worked in the entertainment business my whole life internationally. I booked my first commercial at age 3 in Germany, and then I worked in Switzerland, and then in US, and that has given me quite some insight of how of the processes of production. And in Europe, it's a little bit different than here, and the problems that arise there with the urgency. Things always have to go fast, and there's never enough time for anything, and always a thousand questions. But like that gave me quite a good insight of now as an entertainment attorney to understand the problems of the clients. And yeah, then I went to law school also in Switzerland and here. And otherwise, I've worked as an auditor, which gave me some insight into finances, of course. And then my parents had a marketing company, and then later a press agency, which also kind of got me into these fields, which now helps me, when it comes to financing for films, to see a possible avenues that one can go. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about some of those. There's two issues I want to cover in this
Okay.
interview, and I know we can talk about a lot of things. But issue number one is about filmmakers, screenwriters that use boilerplate agreements, or I should say, agreements that are, very basic, like a template, like a one size fits
Mhm.
all type of an agreement for a writer or a screenwriter, actor or composer or someone to be in your business. And then I'm also going to ask you about getting your screenplay registered with the WGA, with the Copyright Office, some of the differences in between that. So we'll start with the first question. I personally tell people get an attorney to review your contracts because bad things can happen. They've got to be specific to your state. They've got to be specific to your project. They have to be very detail oriented. Why not just
Mhm.
rip a few templates off the internet and just roll with it and shoot my movie? Why is that a bad idea?
Well, I understand, from a filmmaker's perspective, because I've been in those shoes too. You don't have a lot of money and you want to get it done and you want to move forward. So, entertainment attorneys are expensive because it's a niche, you know, segment of the law that has some special provisions with it. Um, and so you strip down, like a general contract, and there's several issues with that. One, as I said, entertainment law is a very specific niche of a law, has certain things that are very unique to entertainment law. So, like, for example, like if I represent a producer, you always want to have a waiver of injunctive relief, meaning nobody can injunct the production or distribution of your film, which is something that you don't want to have in any other area of law, because you want to have as many remedies possible, right? To make people, uh, keep the whatever they agreed to in the contract, and other things. And so I see a lot. I have clients. Just have a client right now. That had a basic writer agreement that they took from the internet, and not only was the parts that you're supposed to fill in, they were not filled in correctly, like the compensation was missing, and the but the contract doesn't really give all the rights that you would need so you could distribute the film, and only part of the rights. And the writing service, for example, weren't defined, right? She had several writers. One writer would do this, the other writer would do that, and it wasn't specified. And now, of course, it has become a problem because one writer thinks he's owed more money. And and it would have just been much cheaper to use, a good writer's contract from the beginning, which would have clarified all of that. Because
Mhm.
in when you make a movie, it's all about really intellectual property, right? You need the rights to use the screenplay. You need the right to show the brands that you use. You need the right to use the music. You need the right to use the performances of the actors. It's all about these rights. And
Yeah.
when you sell the movie and when you distribute the movie, they will ask for a clean chain of title, as they call it, meaning they want to see all the agreements that state that you have all the rights that you need to distribute the movie, to show that you have ownership pretty much of all these rights. And if there's any gap in that, you don't have a clean chain of title. And therefore, for example, the writer agreement, which is the basis, right, the beginning of that chain of title, is one of the very most important agreements. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot of specifics to it. And I always say, you spend more money at the outset, but you just save money. I just see it with that client who comes now, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like, she spent like 10,000 on that writer, and now I'm like, no, it's like, yeah,
Yeah. It can go south pretty quick. And
yeah.
never do business without a contract. That's what I say. I have a bookkeeper because they're better at it than me. I have an accountant because she's better at it than me. And I definitely, if I have any kind of contract to do, I'm getting an entertainment attorney to look at
So
it because I didn't go to law
yeah.
school. So,
Well, that's actually another thing, that a lot of people don't have any agreement at all because they're
mhm,
friends. You know how it is in the
mhm,
entertainment business, everybody's friend with everybody. And they always say, oh no, we agree on everything. And I'm saying, well, agree on everything, then what prevents you of signing off to that in writing? And there's like, oh no, we don't want to do it, I don't want to make it complicated. And I'm like, well, but if you do agree on everything that you say and we put that in writing, then there's no reason not to sign off on it. And I always say, if there's a hesitance to do that, something is already wrong, because it's logically just doesn't make sense.
mhm.
And if you cannot sign a contract in the beginning, you will never be able to sign one later. It's like, because if you cannot agree in good times, there's just no way you can agree in bad times,
Sure.
and people are so hesitant to do a contract. Now we say it's like a prenup. Like, you try to think of every possible thing that could come in between you guys, and
Mhm,
you try to think now how you're going to resolve that. That's really kind of what you're trying to do, and it's for the protection of both. So why
mhm.
wouldn't you do that? But a lot of people are so hesitant, and those are the most problematic cases in a way, because it's just programmed to create problems down the line. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Unfortunately, I've seen it
Yeah.
happen woe too many
To
times.
have
So,
a boilerplate is still better than have nothing. But even,
right. Well, I have one more quick one to ask you, and I don't know if it's quick, but I do want to ask you before we get out of this interview. Some people think I write a screenplay or I partner with someone to write a screenplay, and let's just register it with the WGA, and we're done. We're done. And then
yeah.
all of a sudden, there's a dispute, and they find out that maybe they weren't done. What is important here, and why do people go with the WGA route, or why do people think what protection does that offer?
So in copyright, there's two kind of ways of protection. One is on the common law, and one is statutory. And statutory just means defined by statute, right? And the statutory protection gives you, for example, can give you more damages, can enable you to be eligible for damages or attorney's fees, like if you should prevail in a potential lawsuit, or even the possibility to court in the first place. And in order to get statutory protection, you need to register with the United States Copyright Office. You will not get that with registering with the WGA. The WGA is kind of like if there's a dispute as to when something was written, right? But if you file with the United States Copyright Office, you have that there in there too. It's like my first question when I have a client is always, did you register your work with the United States Copyright Office? And I know other attorneys who that's kind of what they do. They ask for that specific registration first. And then I hear a lot, oh, no, but I did register and I'm fine. I registered with the WGA. And I'm like, I just, would really suggest that now you go to United States Copyright Office and register there, because that's really, if anything happens, that's really where it's the most beneficial for you, because now it's on the statute and it gives you gives you really the protections you would want. Also, it creates a public record, like you're officially puts everybody on notice who that work belongs to. I have some clients in Europe, they don't know about the WGA, but they do know about the United States Copyright Office. So if they want to know like who owns what work, that's where they will go. So it's really not that expensive at all, and it's also with WGA you always have to renew. So I always suggest just from the beginning go to United States Copyright Office. Then you don't need the WGA anyways, and that just really gives you the protection that you will want and need if in case anything goes south.
All right. Well, great advice here. I appreciate you spending time with me today. What is the best way to get in contact with you?
So you can reach me through my website, stussilaw.com, or you can also call my office number. It's 310-300-2360, and that's the best way to get in contact with me.
All right, we've got your website in the description. I appreciate your time.
Super.
And
Thank
I hope
you.
that people learned a lot. I know I did. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye.